The film begins with a scene showing two thieves in action. They are professional burglars who often steal a variety of expensive goods in China. These two thieves have different backgrounds. Thong is an agile thief who really likes to play gambling, such as card gambling, mahjong, slot gambling, and horse racing betting. Because gambling was ingrained in Thong's, no matter how small the chance he had, he would always make a bet. While his partner is named Octopus, he is a flamboyant male who is often involved in romance with many women. In their action this time, they drain the contents of different safes in one of the rooms in a prestigious hospital in the city. It didn't take long for them to successfully retrieve all of the money in the safe. Octopus is still not satisfied with his loot. He then steals some cancer medicine. After that, Thongs and Octopus rush out of the hospital. But unfortunately, they ran into security officers who were on patrol. Meanwhile, in a different room, there is a woman who is struggling to give birth to her baby. The birth of the child has been eagerly awaited by the extended family in the waiting room. But their happiness didn't last long. Suddenly, an intruder came and immediately stole the baby. The intruder's name is Max, and it turns out he is the ex-boyfriend of the baby's mother. Max took the mother and baby into the elevator. Max pushed the bed of the mother, who was still in pain after giving birth. But this man had been blinded by his heartache. Until in the end, Max felt confused and disappointed with the reality conveyed by his ex-girlfriend. But he still took the baby and insisted that the baby was his. Therefore, the security guards who initially chased Thongs and Octopus are now focusing on chasing Max. And unexpectedly, that night Thongs and Octopus heroically saved the baby and returned him to his mother's arms. Until finally Thongs and Octopus were able to escape from the hospital and go home with the landlord, the mentor of Thongs and Octopus for over 20 years. That's how Thongs and Octopus acted with the landlord all the time, robbing together. The three of them team up and the landlord helps gather information about a target Thongs and Octopus can execute. The landlord is also the one who teaches the techniques for opening safes from various series. Thongs and Octopus are very lucky because apart from being both equipped with kung fu skills, they both also have the right mentor in action, and he's the landlord. The life of the three of them is not what they expected. Even though they have quite a lot of wealth after carrying out the robbery, they also feel empty, especially when they don't get along with their beloved family. Thongs was hated by his own father. While Octopus becomes a man who has no feelings, he always hurts his wife who is currently pregnant. But on the other hand, the landlord has a slightly different life. He feels happiness with his wife. But he was also filled with emptiness in his heart for not having children. The landlord's sadness became even more when he found out that there was nothing left of the money savings in his safe. With feelings of disappointment, he then met Thongs and Octopus. He intends to deliver their next project. But before that, he wanted to make sure who had taken his money. Unfortunately, neither Thongs nor Octopus paid much attention to the landlord's story and questions, so the landlord finally forgot about the incident and immediately conveyed the project he had just received, and the reward was quite tempting, a 7 million yen. The news immediately ignited the spirits of Thongs and Octopus, who previously didn't even have the energy to speak. But they don't know what kind of project it is. That night, the three of them rushed to a house that had been determined. It was a luxurious house that had super tight security. But thanks to the shrewdness of Thongs and Octopus, they can easily break into the house. The landlord apparently has brought all the equipment needed to carry out the action. With a little effort, the three of them made it into a baby room. Then the landlord dripped liquid mixed with sleeping pills into the baby's mouth so that the baby would fall asleep when he was taken out of the house. Thongs and Octopus don't understand why the landlord only took a baby from that magnificent house. They did not take any property from there. Finally, the landlord tells them that their mission this time is to deliver this baby to his grandfather. And surprisingly, it turns out that the baby's grandfather is a mafia leader who is often called the Dragon Fish. Although initially Thongs and Octopus did not agree with the kidnapping action, the landlord managed to convince them that their action this time was to help resolve family conflicts. Tempted by the rewards that would be given, Octopus and Thongs gave up and chose to follow the plan that had been prepared by the landlord. Then they rushed somewhere. Their journey to get to that place was not easy because on the way they were disturbed by the police who were on patrol. Their problem is not only that. It turns out that the boss, who wants the baby, has another ploy. He ordered his men to make sure the baby could reach his hands soon, because after this he would carry out a series of tests to confirm that the baby was his grandchild. Long story short, Thongs and his gang managed to escape the police patrol, but the three of them couldn't escape the pursuit of the mafia ordered by the tribe boss, until finally their car plunged into a ravine. Nonetheless, Thongs, Octopus, and the landlord still managed to survive. The landlord then sacrifices himself and asks Thongs and Octopus to save themselves and take care of the baby. Very panicked, Thongs and Octopus ran home with the baby. When they got home, chaos began to ensue. This is unavoidable. the two men have to deal with a tiny baby boy who can do nothing but cry. That night, chaos begins to ensue as the baby loses the effect of the sleeping pills. The baby kept crying loudly. This makes Thongs and Octopus panic. The two of them tried to stop the baby's crying in various ways, from serving dishes like offerings, singing to dancing. But the baby didn't stay quiet until finally the landlady came and entered their room carrying a baby doll. But in the end, they both managed to outwit the landlady, and finally Thongs managed to stop the baby's crying by inviting him to play. The next day, Thongs and Octopus start looking for information about the landlord. They got the news that currently the landlord is being detained at the police station on charges of traffic negligence. He will be released in 2 weeks. The news, of course, made Thongs and Octopus hysterical because they didn't know what to do with the baby. They finally went to the shopping center and bought some random baby supplies such as milk, diapers, and other supplies. From the things they buy, it can be seen that they don't have enough knowledge about how to take care of babies. Even the minimarket cashier gave them advice on what products were suitable for children who were less than 1 year old. Thongs are also given wise advice that childhood is the most important period because whatever they give to this baby will affect the life of the baby in the future. In addition, the cashier also provides proper baby care instructions specifically for new parents. After finishing shopping, Thongs and Octopus passed a gym for pregnant and lactating mothers. Without thinking much, they entered the gym and asked everything they needed to take care of this little baby. There, Thongs met one of the instructors who caught his attention. On their way home, they again met the female instructor on the bus, and then they also chatted. Meanwhile, Octopus sees his wife walking on the sidewalk with a man until Octopus forgets about the baby and leaves him on the bus. Luckily, the female instructor recognized the baby and took him with her. She also returned the baby to Thongs. The life of Thongs and Octopus takes a 180-degree turn. Now they spend more time at home and only travel occasionally so their baby doesn't get bored. Like mom and dad, Thongs and Octopus took turns making milk, changing diapers, and tucking the baby in at night. The changes in their lifestyle were also increasingly visible because they finally decided to take parenting classes on how to care for babies. That's all Thongs and Octopus did just so their baby wouldn't cry and bother them both. Pak Yin, the gymnastics instructor, is also often involved in carrying the baby. However, both Thongs and Octopus continue to try to find all information related to parenting. They also still faithfully attend parenting classes and children's gyms. On the other hand, the triad boss is getting more and more confused every day because he doesn't meet the baby who is suspected to be Max's child. Annoyed, he forcibly took his men and held him in the cold room for being negligent in carrying out his duty to carry the baby. In the cold room, there is also Max's body. And finally, the dragonfish learned about Thongs and Octopus from his men. The next day, Thongs and Octopus are chased by mafia members of the dragonfish crew. It is a little difficult for them to deal with the mafia. But in order to protect the baby, they entrust the baby to Pak Yin and face a fierce battle. But in the end, they both manage to escape from this big-class criminal gang thanks to their resourcefulness and shrewdness, and they finally return home. Pak Yin then took the baby to Thong's house. At the same time, there are moneylenders who want to collect debts from Thongs. Not long after, Octopus' wife also came to deliver the ultrasound results of her baby. Without knowing the truth, Octopus' wife felt disappointed when she met Pak Yin and saw the baby in Octopus' bed. At that time, Thong's house was really crowded because it was visited by many people. Luckily, at that time, Thongs was with his acquaintance who was a police officer, so he could get help to avoid the criminals. Although in the end, the police also felt something was odd because there was a baby in Thong's house. After that, chaos is unavoidable. They'd all then get involved in a great and ridiculous kung fu fight. The baby almost fell into the mafia group, but luckily Octopus managed to grab the baby while fighting in the apartment window. Until finally, Thongs was able to take the baby away from home in a stroller. However, it turned out that the stroller got stuck in the back of a truck, which was guarded by security officers, and in the end the pram was carried away by the truck. With all their might, Thongs and Octopus chased the truck until they are involved in a terrible accident. They kept chasing it until finally the baby was safe. Thongs and Octopus managed to escape. And coincidentally, on the same day, the landlord was released from prison. But unfortunately, right in front of the prison entrance, he was immediately forcibly picked up by the dragonfish's men. And when the landlord met the big boss face to face, the landlord immediately went limp, especially after he saw the bodies of a man he knew lying stiff when he was taken out in the cold room. Meanwhile, Thongs felt that his condition was not feeling well. He also met his father, who was sick with the baby. Unexpectedly, the baby's hand clasped Thong's father's fingers, and Thong's father felt sorry for his son. The next day, their baby had a fever and wouldn't drink milk. Thong's siblings suggested that Thongs take the baby to the hospital, and then Thongs head straight to the hospital where Melody, Octopus' wife, works. Arriving at the hospital, the baby immediately received treatment. After that, it turned out that the baby could recover soon and the fever went down. While waiting for the medical prescription, Thongs meets a loan shark who has owed him money. The moneylender was also taking his baby to the hospital because the baby had measles. Spontaneously, Thongs provides simple recipe concoctions so that babies do not always take medicine. Apparently, Thongs began to understand about food intake and simple medicines for babies. Increasingly, both Thongs and Octopus have experienced what it's like to be a parent. They already completely love and care for the baby. Apparently, the landlord had also heard about the baby's condition. He also took care of the baby in the hospital. But the main purpose of coming is to convey a message from the dragon fish so that they can immediately hand over the baby. Apart from that, the landlord also convinced Thongs and Octopus to continue carrying out this kidnapping action. The landlord also brought 5 million yen as down payment for Thongs and Octopus who had carried out the baby kidnapping. So that they can quickly get the rest of the payment, they have to hand in the baby as soon as possible to the tribe boss. At first, Thongs and Octopus didn't budge with the amount of money beside the baby box. Instead, they continued to look at the baby with loving eyes. What's more, at that time, the television in the room broadcast the condition of the baby's parents who kept crying and hoped that the baby would be returned soon. In addition, the baby's parents will also provide quite fantastic rewards for people who can find their baby. Thongs and Octopus were getting agitated, so Octopus chose to get some fresh air and walked around. He then saw his wife working hard as a mascot at a sashimi restaurant to meet the needs of her and the baby in her womb. Octopus' feelings became erratic, his heart was broken, and he felt guilty for what he had done to his wife. Meanwhile, the landlord is still in the hospital, and he calls his wife to see him immediately. This time, the landlord was touched when he saw his wife holding the baby lovingly. However, the three of them must still hand over the baby to the mafia boss according to the original plan. However, this time the plan is more mature. The landlord will first meet the mafia boss while Thongs and Octopus will hand in the baby by waiting for instructions from the landlord. When the landlord meets the mafia boss and is lured with 30 million yen, the landlord asks that he accept the payment first before handing over the baby. After his request was granted, the landlord then called Octopus and Thongs to immediately take the baby to a playground. As the exchange progresses, the baby feels very sad to be left behind by Thongs and Octopus, and the baby can already call Thongs Papa and Octopus Mama. The touching moment left Thongs and Octopus feeling sad. When Octopus asks what the mafia boss will do with the baby, the mobsters say that their boss will do a DNA test to make sure that the baby is his grandchild. If the results match, then the big boss will certainly be very happy. Thongs interrupted the words of the mafia gang and asked what would happen if it turned out that the baby was not the grandson of the mafia boss. Seeing their doubtful face without thinking, Thongs and Octopus immediately took the baby back. Thongs and Octopus again try to escape to save the baby for the umpteenth time. This time, Thongs and Octopus' actions are more complicated because they are dealing with a large number of mafia gangs. Even though they tried to escape and survive, the mafia Thongs, who managed to hold the baby, was forced to give up because Octopus was taken hostage and threatened with death. When they come face to face with the mafia boss, it is revealed that the boss is actually Max's father. He loved his son so much that his son's every wish would be fulfilled, including Max's wish before he fell and died to save his ex-girlfriend and the baby. Instantly, Thongs remembered his action with Octopus at the hospital at that time. Not long after, a doctor confronted the mafia boss and told the results of the DNA test. Unfortunately, the result is negative and it means that the baby is not Max's son. Full of disappointment, the mafia boss took the baby to a room where Max was buried in a very cold ice room. Knowing what the mafia boss had done to the baby, Thongs and Octopus desperately tried to save their baby. They mustered all their might to defeat the formidable fighter standing guard right in front of the cold room door. Their above-average skills make it difficult for Thongs and Octopus to beat them, and this makes the baby stay longer in the cold room. Until finally, even though he was rescued, apparently the baby had been exposed to severe hypothermia. Thongs then screamed to wake the baby up, while Octopus continued to rub his hand and placed it on the baby's cheek. But the baby didn't open his eyes. Thongs finally had an idea. It will give the baby an electric shock even if it's just using a car battery as a power source. But they tried 3 shocks and the baby still won't wake up. The electric shock disturbed Thong's health, but he did not care about his condition. He kept shedding his tears and crying for the baby. The same thing happened to Octopus and the people in that room. They were touched by the efforts made by Thongs and Octopus to save the baby. Shortly thereafter, police and medics arrived to save the baby while detaining Thongs and Octopus. Not only that, the landlord were also detained. The 3 of them admit their mistakes so far and promise that if they are given a long life, they will correct all their mistakes. At the end of the story, Thong's octopus and the landlord get leniency, so that they will soon be released from prison because of their good behavior while in prison. Not only that, the baby's family also visited them. Of course, they also brought the cute baby. Seeing the baby, Thongs and Octopus cheered and approached the baby. Thongs immediately took the baby in his arms, and that's when they heard a miracle. The baby's family provides an opportunity for them to work as employees in their family. And at that time, they just found out that the baby's name is Matthew. The baby's full name is Li Kexing. And after that, the movie ended.